Hey, oh, Raj, how the heck are you doing, sir? Oh, you're muted, buddy.
I am muted. I am pumped.
Oh, this is I frankly. So for those, welcome to the live stream, everyone. We are going to be going into some stuff today that, while I was excited about, like we did like a little like pre-stream like rundown of what we're going to do, and now I am super jacked. Like, uh, this is going to be like potentially the best live stream I've ever done, and I have my lowest attendance ever for many years or months on this. So that's how it works, right? Like people miss out on all the good stuff here. So all right, we're before we get into all of that stuff though, Raj, could you introduce yourself to my audience? I'm not sure anyone, they all
Well,
know who
I,
you are.
I wouldn't expect people to know me before because I'm a recent joinee, actually.
Oh,
Not to Microsoft, but certainly to Fabric. I joined the Fabric team, I want to say about 9 months ago, just
all right.
about. Um, yeah, and before that, I was working on um, AI for industrial machines. I know that's kind of crazy, but
Oh my, what
yeah,
was
it
that
was.
about?
Oh, it was a good time. We were trying to figure out like how do we put neural networks on reactors the sizes of rooms, and oil drills and things like that. It was kind of fun. It was a effort inside of Microsoft Research that was going on for a while. It was really cool, and I learned a lot of stuff about reinforcement learning and the like. Before that, I also was actually working on enhancing data science and data engineering,
Okay.
um, and so that's kind of how the worlds came together. Um, but like, if we hit the rewind button, not the rewind button, let's hit the restart button.
Okay.
I started out as an entrepreneur.
Oh,
I started my own gig. That didn't work out. I kind of felt, yeah,
yeah, those things happen, right?
right. Those things happen.
Uh,
Fair
uh,
story. And then I sort of fumbled my way into getting into PM, and I've always really been passionate about I've always been really passionate about getting insights from data, and Copilot
mhm.
is this like turbo button that makes everything a lot simpler. And that's when, given the opportunity, I sort of jumped at it and said, "This is amazing. I want to do this. Let's go."
Yeah. Well, I gotta say, my little bit of experience with Copilot and Fabric Notebooks uh, has just really blown me away. I've had 4 or 5 like serious attempts at like starting to work with Python, and like no one be able to like help me get to like the first bit of running code. And this took me from like knowing nothing about Python to like being able to like actually work and write in Python. Although I'm hoping what we're going to do today is actually exciting, because I'm hoping I can learn a lot from you through this process, right? So
Totally.
that's what I'm most excited about. So um, yeah,
I,
and
I, I think the main thing here, and this is, I appreciate, I appreciate that context, and obviously I appreciate the positive comments, Chris. Look, the story here, and more generally the story about Fabric, is that what we're trying to do is we're trying to not just democratize access to data, but we're trying to open up every part of the data stack to all of the personae that work with it.
mhm,
Now, I think for a lot of people, notebooks have been, the domain of data scientists and folks that are building the actual models and things like that. That's not to say that that won't continue to be the case,
mhm,
but it is a means to an end, right? Like when Power BI reports were first coming out, it wasn't like it was all intuitive, um, open up page one and get going, right?
right,
Um, and things evolve from there, right? The ease of use, the ability to do, more technically complex things, the things like DAX and otherwise. Notebooks is actually quite similar, right? What
mhm,
Fabric does is we kind of supercharge a notebook by removing the need to worry about extra stuff that data scientists and others have had to worry about for some time. And those are things like setting up your compute cluster and providing access to your data and making sure it works seamlessly. And, this is like plumbing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But the benefit of using a notebook specifically inside of Fabric as a Power BI user, and even as a beginner, intermediate, whatever, expert data scientist, is that inside of Fabric, when you're using a notebook, although the languages that you're using are not necessarily point and click, right? There's things like Python and R and in a way programming languages, right? The
Right.
benefit is that anything that you use there can interoperably be moved, changed, shifted, stored everywhere else inside of Fabric as well.
Yeah, and frankly, we had Nate Finley on my live stream last week where we were talking about I just missed it here, about bursting and smoothing.
Right.
Which is awesome. I actually just did a video on it where I laid it all out. You should, if you haven't checked it out yet, it is fantastic. I honestly,
totally,
I think bursting and smoothing may be one of the most powerful things that Fabric brings to organizations' ability to manage their compute in the cloud without having to have like this highly focused engineering effort to make sure you're not spinning stuff up and down unnecessary. And it is just really an amazing thing to like buy your block of compute, get it up and running, and then like know that you're within your budget, and then only scale up when you when you need it. So that's awesome.
Absolutely.
All right, though. We are here. This is a lunch and learn. We are going to learn how to use Copilot in notebooks to actually work inside and learn Python. So background, I know nothing about Python. I've known a little bit about working with the notebooks, enough to like click on a few things. So Raj, I'm going to have you guide me here as we start to go through this. So so we know there's nothing up my sleeves here, right? Like, there's no Figma magic going on here. There's no PM stuff going. So let's dive into this.
All right.
Although, quick before we do, there is a question in the chat, and we're going to pull this one up.
All right.
Hey Raj, good to see you. This is coming from Jai. Hey Jai, over on LinkedIn. Good to see you. Good to see, Copilot. If we enable this without having Azure Open AI at our tenant, will there be any data loss?
That's a good question. It is, in fact, a prerequisite. And actually, thank you for this question. It is, in fact, a prerequisite to turn on Copilot using the tenant administrator settings. And thank you so much, Chris, for navigating there. As a part of turning those settings on, you do consent to participation not only in Copilot experiences, but also the terms required for usage of Azure OpenAI. And in fact, if you are interested, there is actually a whole transparency note that might be interesting to read through. It goes through in a fair amount of detail, not just the terms of service for Microsoft Fabric, Copilot, but it also provides some interesting information around, how we use the data, what data is retained, how it's retained, what does that policy look like, and it's all there. And if possible, I can actually post a link to that. I don't know if that's a thing that we can do.
If you post it into that little private chat, I will.
Okay, perfect. Perfect.
Publish that out. So.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'll do that right now.
All right. Excellent. While he's setting that up, you do have to have that enabled, right, for this to work. Otherwise, it's not going to work.
That is correct. Yes.
And let's see. I am, but to get this up and running, I am going to go into my workspace where I have a lakehouse, right?
Yes.
And I need to, correct me if I'm wrong, I have to go into my settings, and I have to make sure that it is running on either an F64 or a P1 capacity, correct?
That's correct. Yeah. So Copilot can only be used in F64 and P1 and up. And it can't be used in trial capacities today.
So Sorry. But I've got Eureka, which is my P1, so I'm good to go there. All right. So I've got that set up. And I come in because I'm a Power BI developer, right? So I am, copy this link, share that for you. So this is the mechanism I'm accustomed to coming in. I already have a lake house, so that's good. But I want to go in and I want to create a notebook. So if I go to my drop down, I'm only going to see Power BI kind of stuff here by default, right? Reports, semantic models, that type of thing. If I click on more options, I get the ability to create a new notebook, right?
That's right.
I'm going to click on the notebook. All right. Now, first thing I've learned is that I have to make sure I attach it to a lake house, right?
Yeah, and that's again, so this is like general good, like how do you use a notebook and kind of get things started. So in Fabric, one of the best things to do to get started is to attach, either create or add an additional notebook, lakehouse. The benefit of adding lakehouses is that it's, again, as I mentioned earlier, interoperable between the different workloads. It's kind of like one of the units of currency in a way of like, oh, I'm going to go here and I want to do this. And you can use notebooks without requiring a lakehouse, but it's hard to use it inside of Fabric. So this is the first thing, really. And then the second thing that you want to do once you have the lakehouse added, since just, we're doing the Copilot stuff, is you want to click that green button, Chris, on top. There you go. Perfect.
This one right here.
Yep, that's right. All right, and this is going to open up the Copilot pane. So let's talk a little bit about this for a second. So in Fabric, right, where Copilot is enabled, and again, we're gradually rolling it out, not just to customers, but the different experiences as well, right? And how that gets turned on. One of the awesome things about Copilot and notebooks is you actually can not only work with it inside of your notebook, which we'll talk about, but if you want to get started, you can also just kind of use the chat pane like you would Bing, right? You can just sort of type into it and then ask questions and get going. Before you can do any of those things, and thank you for taking that action, Chris. First thing you got to do, though, when you open up the Copilot pane, is you've got to run these prerequisite packages. Now, we're in public preview, so there are going to be a few bumps and things like that as we go on. This is one of those. We're trying to make this sort of go away, as it were. And we'll definitely do that sooner rather than later. But as we get started, this is the prerequisite installation cell for the packages inside of Copilot.
Okay. And can you tell me, you said a phrase when you described these that I heard someone else say before, and I thought they were just joking.
Yes.
You called these like, what are these called?
Magic commands. So
magic commands.
Okay. Magic commands. And I promise I'm not making that up. Okay. Magic commands are basically, so again, taking a step back, right? A notebook is basically otherwise known as like an IPython kernel. This is a lot of words, not necessary. Okay. This is a shortcut in a notebook, right?
Okay.
And as a shortcut in a notebook, what this sort of command, this magic command, allows you to do is you're kind of giving a whole set of instructions over to the notebook for how to do things by appending a little % in front of it. As an example, right? Pip install. So what you're doing here is you're installing a bunch of Python packages using this like % command, like magic command, pip, go, right? And what that does is it goes and fetches these things, right? It's like, I know how to pip, I'm going to go pip. And the notebook then knows, all right, I'm going to go retrieve this package and these dependencies and this kind of thing. And you don't have to worry about stitching any of that together. And we will see actually usage of these magic commands in a more detailed way with Copilot as we go along. But this magic command convention is not limited to what you see here, the pip installation, etc.
Sure. And one comment, I am just so thrilled that like logging and details as to what's happening is so like in your face and available versus like obscured and like impossible to find. So how awesome is that, right? That is just great. All right. Now, again, I'm learning here, but if I'm wearing the hat of a student who's trying to learn who doesn't have someone sitting at my side, which I'm glad you're here because you can help explain some of these things. But I want to wear the hat of I'm trying to learn Python and no one is here. So
I got you. And we're gonna go through it, and I will start from first principles. I hope that's okay, in some of these things, and we can kind of get going. So the first thing that you want to let me kind of take a before we get even into the Copilot stuff. Let me take a beat back here for a second.
Okay.
One of the things to know about, let's talk about notebooks, right? So one of the things to know about notebooks is that you have the ability to run Python against or R or whatever runtimes you support. Runtime is just a fancy way of saying like it's a language environment, right? It's like there's a compiler behind it and it can do things. One of the things to know about a notebook is that historically, although we've kind of made it pretty cool by having this whole like lake house thing attached and being able to write and read from it, the way that you work with notebooks traditionally is something called a data frame, right? And a data frame is like a virtual copy of the data that kind of sits in memory inside of the notebook. And it allows for the notebook to take more granular operations against that without having to do things like ETL and pulling and writing and whatever else you would need basically, to work with a data source in memory so that you can actually take actions on it in a faster form and really operate in memory totally. And so the first thing that I want to do actually to get us set up for success here is you have an awesome lake house here on the left-hand side, Chris. I would love for us to take one of those tables, okay? And let's actually point, click, and drag one of those tables over to a cell to get a data frame loaded. Can we do that?
Sure, we could do that. Let's grab my dim customer.
Yeah,
and look at that.
There you go. And that's something actually that what is doing.
I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah, there you go. So let's read that Python for a second. So this is creating a data frame, okay, and using Spark, basically Spark SQL, to grab 1,000 tables from this specific 1,000 rows, excuse me, from this specific table. It's going to take it, it's going to load it up, and then what it's going to do is it's going to display those rows inside of the notebook. So again, what you can do inside of a notebook is you can put stuff in there, right? Like we put stuff in a cell, we hit the run button, and after we hit the run button, as you mentioned, Chris, you're going to see the logs, and it's actually going to take an action. So what I expect to see happen, which is what happened, is it took basically this virtual copy of that data, 1,000 rows of which, loaded it into memory. Here we see it. And now we have a data frame that's inside of memory that we can actually take operations on. And it used Spark basically as the train, the backbone to do that. That's how it took all of those operations of compute. And why this is interesting, I think, to folks from Power BI is that if you wanted to use a notebook in any other situation that wasn't something like this, you'd have to set up your data, you'd have to set up your Spark, you had to set up your Python, all that stuff. Don't have to worry about any of that. But nobody cares about that. Let's get into the magic, okay? Let's jump right in, okay? That's what people are here for, right?
Right. Let's get some AI Copilot going here.
All right. Okay. So this is where I'm going to ask you a question, Chris. Okay. Do you want to start with chatting with your data, or do you want to explore the data inside of the notebook first? Which do you prefer?
Let's chat with the data.
Okay.
Is that all right? Yeah.
Perfect. All right. So
awesome.
Here's what we're going to do. We're going to click in the Copilot pane. Perfect. And now you are free to ask whatever questions you want. And audience, this is all done live and completely stochastic and random. So if anything happens, blame the AI.
Right. How do I detect or how do I clean this data? I don't know if that's going to work, but I just typed that in and it's working.
And there's a question in chat, actually. Do we know if Copilot for Power BI is also working? And so it's a good question. So if you've turned on Copilot, as you saw in the tenant administration settings, that will turn on Copilot everywhere that it is enabled inside of Fabric. So Copilot for Power BI will also be on, as well as the Copilot experience for Fabric in notebooks.
Okay. So that is fantastic. And I like this, but I think I want to. So this gave me a good explanation of the things to do, but I actually want to generate code. So
Yep.
I want to, let's see, what do I want to do here? Where do I want? Let's say, I don't know. Generate.
Notice. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah.
So,
Sure.
so there are a couple of things you can do here. So you can right above that chat box, and we might want to make this more prominent, but right above that chat box, you see these little like bubbles here.
Oh,
These are follow-ons, actually suggestions that you can use based on what you've input to try and get some more information. So you can continue the conversation using that. Let's find out what Copilot suggests.
Yeah. Because I was trying to look through that. I'm sorry, old school. Didn't think to use the AI.
That's okay.
The AI, right?
We got to work on making it a little bit more intuitive, but hopefully that's helpful. Let's see what happens.
Oh my gosh. Let's see here. Wow. Look at that. Based on the provided code snippet, the columns in the div customer table are as follows.
So now what's happening? So it's doing kind of an analysis. It's looking through of the columns that are in that data frame. What are some of the things that we could do? Well, some common scenarios that we can use for cleaning are we can check for missing values. And then it gives you that actual recommendation. We can check to see if the data types are correct. We can create some features from there. Let's see. And we see a bunch of nulls here in suffix. I wonder if it's going to recommend to take those nulls out. I don't know, but I literally don't know what Copilot is going to do right now. But
Right.
Okay, let's sign up.
Well, look at this. To check for missing values in Desk, you can use the is null function. Here is the Python code. All right, I'm going to insert the code.
Go for it. And what you just did there is it gave you a code snippet. And actually, I'm going to show you something else here.
Okay.
Chris. You can't really read that code snippet, right?
No, it's
not
hard.
Great. No, it's hard. Yeah. So here's what I want you to do. Go scroll to the left a little bit. Use the mouse cursor. I wish there was a way I could no, all the way to the edge of that Copilot window.
Yeah.
The chat window. All right. A little bit more.
Yeah.
A little bit more. There you go. You got it.
Yeah.
You can actually expand that Copilot window and drag it. So, yep.
Oh, that's nice.
So if you wanted to preview it before you inserted it, you can actually go ahead and do that. And you can also feel free to drag it back. And by the way, there's, it's not a great experience all the time to try and read and look at code in smaller windows. There's limited real estate, but at least, before you put anything in the notebook, there's a way to check and evaluate what's going on.
Well, and this is a good point because we should remind people this is AI generated code. You don't want the Terminator situation occurring. So you should review it to make sure it's not doing delete star from star or something along those lines. And
that's right.
That code 66 order didn't go out and it execute
order 66 execute order 66 on your data.
All right, but this is gonna go through and check out for missing values in each column. Okay.
Yes. And you're welcome to run that. And you can actually either close the Copilot window if you want. Oh, fascinating. Close the Copilot window if you want, or minimize the lake house. Either is fine. And let's see what happened here. All right. What's the error? Let's go down. Okay. Data frame has no object, is null. Oh, fascinating. Okay. All right. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. Now we're going to try something fun.
Okay.
Let's go back to the Copilot pane. Hey, my code ran into an error. Please fix it.
Oh my.
So one of the interesting things about Fabric, and by the way, if this doesn't work, we're going to have to try and fix it some other way. But one of the interesting things about Fabric Copilot for notebooks is that you actually have seamless context between the notebook and the chat pane. Unfortunately, this one, for whatever reason, didn't catch. But anything that happens inside of the notebook should also be available to and aware of the chat pane for you to ask questions and get answers and things like that.
I gotcha. So I will say, I was playing with this a little bit the other day, and I did exactly this. I said, I got this error. What the heck do I do? Can you clean this? And it did. It totally did. Right? Oh,
yeah, and
that's
using is null instead of is null. Okay. All right.
Is that a thing?
Yeah. Well, let's find out.
No.
Huh. That's funny. All right.
Okay. Well, let me see.
Maybe we can try something else.
Yeah. Is there any other functions available?
And one of the things that we are doing, by the way, is we are going to continue to improve some of the generated code, because one of these things that you'll notice is that, well, actually, we just did it, right? We tried to have Copilot generate some of that code. It did not work. It was code that Copilot generated. It should work. And so we want to get Copilot to get better at generating successful code for execution. And so, that's definitely something that we're going to continue to improve. So let's see, what else we got? So it gave us a bunch of other Python functions.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we could use either of those. How can I use the is null?
Yeah. Well, let's try the fillNA function. What is that? fillNA?
FillNA.
The function fills null or missing values in the data frame with specified values. Oh, that's cool. And again, if I didn't know how to write Python, I'd be like really hard up. So this is okay. And so this is something else I noticed. You have, like, you can't just blindly use what's in the cells. You do have to like have some like awareness, and like you have to read it, because like here I'm gonna have to put in my table name, I'm gonna have to put in my column name, I'm gonna have to put in my placement value. So
now you could maybe try doing that. You could maybe try doing that with use the and it's better. This is actually a good point. It's always better, the suggestions out of the box will provide helpful hints for where to go. But it's always better to try and be more explicit with Copilot wherever you are, right?
Yeah. Yep,
the more explicit that you can be, the better the more accurate you're going to be. And honestly, it's helpful to think about it that way, right? We are obviously going to get better at providing inferred or intuitive context, but that may not always be possible, right? It's difficult for us as a product to try and figure out what the intuition is behind that request, but we're all going to get better at it. For example, this I would say probably should have picked up. Oh, it's the dim customer table, and those are things that in the next, I want to say, I expect in the next few months or next quarter or so, we'll definitely get a lot better at doing. But let's see what happened here. So I think you went ahead and executed that cell.
Yep.
All right. I think what we can do here is actually. And it did just do that. It did df show.
Yep.
So
Isn't
now
there
it's
another one frame that I
Yep.
can use?
Yep.
It's,
If you scroll up, yep, it goes
display.
display DF. Yeah.
I don't need the dot in front of it, right?
You do need it's a different command. So you want to do, you can't actually just do display parentheses DF.
Okay, hold on. We'll just create a new notebook. I learned
Yep,
that I can
no
do
problem.
that too. I can
Actually, hang on. This is a good point to do something else here. Is that okay? Can I grab the thing from you real quick?
Yep.
You're in the notebook now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And here's what we want to do. We actually want, instead of chatting with the notebook, we want to actually just stay in the notebook, right? You're kind of in the flow now. You're getting into it, Chris. You're a Pythonista. And so here's what I want you to do. We're gonna leverage that thing we talked about earlier, the magic commands. Okay.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And there are a bunch of magic commands that I think we can make use of here. So one of them is, let's say we want to output code. We'll do percent code, 2%.
Oh my,
So
now it's really magic. Okay.
Yeah. So percent code, and then hit enter, which is going to drop you to a new line. Okay. And here's what I want you to do. Just ask Copilot what you're trying to do. Hey, I want to display the cell, or the data frame. Oh, actually, good point. So you can actually talk to Copilot in the cell itself. You don't have to switch back into the Copilot pane. Yes. So what the magic command is doing is it says, oh, the notebook wants to talk to the AI. That's cool. I want to do that too. How do I do that? Well, use this percent magic for code, and let's see what happens. So what'll happen here, and you can feel free to close or the windows or not. There you go. Yeah.
Wrong data frame, because I want the data frame here, the last one. But that, yeah, that just generated the whole thing, though.
Yes.
Oh, I want to.
Oh, you want the nice one. Let's say you can actually go and say, oh, I want it in a nice format.
Okay, let me say that. Display frame above in a nice format. Let's see what it does. We're going to delete this one here. Oh my, look at all this. I don't know what any of this is, but look, it's all like importing stuff and displaying stuff. Let's see if it works. Oh, there it is. That's awesome.
And here's what I'm going to do. I am going to go ahead and post here. This is a documentation link that goes through all different kinds of magic commands. Let's keep going here and let's do some interesting stuff. Why not try percent describe?
Oops. Okay.
Just run it.
Just run it. Okay.
Oh, I think it's a DE. Sorry.
Describe.
Yeah.
Spelling. I'll get you.
Let's see. Did I do something?
One magic? Was I being too magical? I was
Maybe.
too magical.
Too magical.
1%, I guess.
Was it a line magic? Oh, you know what? Because yeah. Okay. All right. I'm not.
What is this?
I'll leave the line magics and cell magics discussion for later. But yes. So what has this done? So now this is actually going through, and this is going through the dim customer table. You could probably, or the dim customer data frame, you could do that with the fill data frame too. Percent describe fill data frame, and that'll actually describe the filled one. It's going to be the same because it's really only going through the schema. But here's the interesting thing. It actually has, because it's in the data frame, what you'll see is it's actually going through and providing information, not just about the columns, but it has data awareness as well, since it's inside of a data frame. So you can describe the characteristics of the data, in addition to just giving you some basic insight. There's another thing that you can do. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, go on. Yeah.
There's another thing that you can do here, which we didn't actually use before because I kind of wanted to see how the other one would work.
Okay.
But if you let's take a shot at, no, it's okay. I was going to say there's a fix errors magic as well. So you could actually run percent fix errors, fix underscore errors at the top of the cell, and it would actually go through and spit out a fixed version of the code that you're looking for.
Really? So I can go back up to this code that generated an error.
Yeah. Now it was having some trouble, so I can't guarantee that it'll actually work, but let's give it a shot. Line magic. Okay. You need 2%.
I had 2.
No, there's just one that got copied. Yeah. You got percent fixer. There you go. Yep, you got it. Oh, fascinating. What is this now?
Fix error. I'm just randomly doing stuff at this point. But okay, that didn't work. But
oh, okay.
Is it dash?
Yeah, it might. Maybe it's because actually that was run previously. Huh. Oh, it's. I'm sorry. It's supposed to be an underscore, not a hyphen. I apologize.
I did underscore first. I changed.
I should have realized that. Oh. And that's not working either, huh? Okay.
No, it was underscore. That's why you told me. I just switched it in case it was the dash.
Okay. Not sure why that one's not working, but I'll take a look at that afterward. Okay. Yeah.
Get on that. What the heck, man?
All right. That's okay. That's all right.
Yeah. There's clearly live development here with AI. Hey, Jai has a question. He wants to know, is Copilot auto-updating and understanding the challenges using the functions in Python, like which functions will work and which won't, which is outdated, which is not?
Okay, that's a good question.
Uh-huh.
Let's talk about it for a second.
Okay.
So there's actually a few parts to this. So the first is Copilot going to generate code that doesn't work out of the gate? Well, the answer is no, not 100% of the time, right? Occasionally, Copilot will generate code, just given the fact that it may not necessarily be fit to the specifics of what you have in the data, or that it may run into some errors because it didn't understand the explicit intent behind what you were trying to generate. Or it might actually have some outdated references in terms of what it's able to fetch. Those are all things that we're working on improving. And so, I will say that specifically for generated code, those are things that are under the product team's control, and we can actually get better at helping Copilot figure out how to generate better and more accurate code, and even more intuitive Python code as well. And so that's kind of like before you run it, right? And then once you run it, right, as you mentioned, Chris, once you run it, you're going to end up in a situation where you're like, oh, well, I kind of want to generate, more and more code. Well, you end up in situations where you'll end up in errors. Copilot has the awareness inside of what we call a Spark session of a notebook. So basically, when you fire up a notebook, it goes and grabs this compute thing that I was talking about. And in each of those sessions, any of the errors for the cells that you kind of run into will be in the context window. for the actual LLM. Okay. And if folks don't know what that means, that's kind of like the awareness of what the Copilot is aware of, right? Like you spawn Copilot and now it has a brain and these are things that it remembers in its brain. And actually, you know, I want to show something that's kind of interesting. If you don't mind, Chris, can we jump back to that?
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. All right. So here's one that I want to use, which is, sorry, hang on a second. So we're going to do, and let me actually just type this to you because this is easier. Hold on a second.
Okay.
Let's do this guy.
Ooh. So that, oh, come on now. Show chat context. Okay. Running.
All right. So this is going to show you, you know, it's going to give you some idea of all of the things that you need to have to get Copilot to answer on. If you scroll up, actually.
Oh, look at all this. There's a lot more in there, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, and go down. Let's go all the way down. Well, not all the way down. And there's definitely something in there which is like, I ran into an error of something. Yeah, there you go. Okay. So it actually does have awareness, in fact, of what that error is, and it can actually respond and give you some idea and understanding of what's going on there. And yeah, so that's, you know, definitely something that it might be interesting to folks. But yeah, let's feel free to, you know, just keep going, and we can kind of figure out. Actually, it might be interesting to even write it back to whatever is in the fill data frame. Write that back to the same table, and then see if that changes the Power BI report.
Oh yeah.
And
you know, my Power BI report is not working.
Oh, that's okay. That's totally fine. But if you add 2%, so whenever you, now I'll talk about it for a second. When you did that pip install thing, right? You had 1% and you did pip. That's something we call line magic, where everything, all the instructions for the notebook has to be in the single line. Basically, like that 1% says, I'm going to get everything I need from you in this line, right? And then 2% is a cell magic. And a cell magic is this whole cell is going to be all the things that I'm going to send to the notebook and everything that I need. And so that cell magic is 2% basically.
I gotcha. Okay. All right. Well, that didn't work, but that's okay.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah. That's fine. Now, can I create a visualization? I thought I did this. How would I visualize this data? Thought I did that once, and I got the coolest, like, well, we'll see what it comes up with. I got a cool graph, and then I asked it some other questions. It just got cooler and cooler, and I didn't have to write any code, and it was awesome.
All right, let's see. What did it recommend for us? Oh, look
bar
at that
chart. Look at that histogram. Okay.
And it tells you which columns you can use with that too.
Oh wow! All right. And you generate the code for see if that works. Honestly, and clearly I don't know what I'm doing when it comes to Python, but I was doing this stuff the other day, and everything was working incredibly well.
Well, you know how it is. Once you do demos, yeah.
The demo gods will get you, right?
Yeah.
Look at this. Look at this. Oh my gosh. Okay. Go over there. Give me the code. Let's see. Do I have anything in here? The thing I learned is I have to look for any fields that are not, or anything that's in quotes that I need to fill in. It looks like this is right, but every once in a while it'll be like table name here or something.
Right. Right. And then when we'll get better at that as well.
Look at this. Oh, that is so cool. And oh, I bet, where's this running off of? This is on my
Phil DF.
filled DF. Okay, so if I go up to the top, and I remove my limit 1,000, or let me just change it to 100,000, and I run this, and then I go down to my where I create my filled DF, and I run that. I can then go down to the bottom, and I can run this, and my charts and stuff are going to change, right? That's how that works, right? Oh yeah, it is. Dude, that's awesome. This is fantastic. I feel like I mean, I don't know Python, but I know enough to now know how to get Python code here. Yeah. Oh, and you're going to say, how do I write this back to that table? Oh, let me ask. How do I write this back to the Delta file in the lakehouse? Oh my gosh.
Oh, so this is kind of interesting.
Maybe we need to start prompting the Copilot.
Prompting. Yeah, I will. I promise you, I'll take that back to the engineering team and let them know. Make sure you tell it to be a Python expert. Should have said that beginning. How could you do that?
Oh, I see. Oh my god, it generates better code when you do it.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay. So I'm writing it back, Delta mode overwrite, and I'm saving it to Lakehouse default files, but I have to go down here and I have to figure out where those files are, right?
Well, let's try something different. Let's see. Let's try, if you can prompt it for, I would like to write these, the fill data frame back to dim customer in the Lakehouse. I don't know how this is going to go, by the way, but
please provide me the code. Oh, here we go. Oh my gosh.
now let's see.
Format Delta overwrite, save as table dim customer.
Yeah. And what was the exception? Let's see. Self J overwrite. Okay. Go down, go down. Type collision. Fascinating. So it converted in the data frame, it typecast. Oh wow. So yearly income. Why is it string? Is it string? Is it string in the original table?
Let's go take a look. Dim customer, yearly income.
That one.
ABC.
Yep.
Okay, so that means
I
No, I'm just
wonder.
doing
Well,
select.
I see they're
What's
all
that?
strings. Interesting. Okay. How deep do we want to go here? Let's stay away from typecasting stuff and try to figure that out. That's okay.
That's good.
Another time.
Well, hang on. Look at this. How do I verify the filled DF frame is successfully written to the dim customer table? What will it do there? Because I would want to validate that this happened, right?
Yes. I'm just super curious to see what happens. This is always kind of fun because it's like I'd love to watch people interact with it. Okay, let's find out. Oh wow. It's getting it's doing a diff basically. That's funny.
From itself, though.
It's doing a diff. Yeah. Well, let's see. A diff, a fill DF from DF. Oh, you're right. It's not from the lake house.
Yeah.
That's funny. Okay.
Close, but I wouldn't know how to write this in Python. I can look at this and go, well, this is clearly not right. I could insert some code above it, and I could say, where is it? Dim customer. Instead of filled, it's validate. Right? Underscore. I could create that validate data frame, right?
Mm-hmm.
I could add my whatever's onto there. And then I could replace one of these filled. Wait a minute. Yeah. Right?
That's in the parentheses, yeah.
Wait, the one in parentheses? Okay. Okay, and then I could run this.
So that's yeah. That's not gonna work.
Oh, I didn't create my data frame.
Yeah, that's a new data frame, yeah.
Yep. So I gotta create that first, then I should be able to create this.
If is equal. So it's not equal. So it's basically saying that validate DF and fill DF. That's the if else.
Okay.
Okay. I want to take a second here. Because I want to laud Chris. Because what just happened here was that you have successfully gotten past the level 102 of working on Python and notebooks. You just created a data frame, you manipulated data in that data frame, and you created an if-else function to evaluate one data frame versus another. You are 3 steps away from creating your own machine learning models inside of notebooks. And I am not exaggerating.
This
is fantastic.
Yeah. It clearly, anyone watching this is going to go, this guy does not know Python. But I have done all these things, and it is so close, and a little troubleshooting, a little playing with these things, and like we are rock solid here. This is really impressive. Now, can I take this into VS Code? What would that be like? What's that experience?
Great question. Okay, so Fabric does have a VS Code extension. So there are certainly features inside of VS Code if you're used to operating in notebooks in VS Code, or if you're used to operating in VS Code more generally, right? Mm-hmm. You can open anything inside of VS Code and interact with it. Now, the main question here is, well, what happens to Copilot? Today, Copilot is really centered around this online sort of notebooks experience. However, right, one of the benefits of going into VS Code, particularly around notebooks, is you get the benefit of working with GitHub Copilot if you have a license there. And there's a set of really awesome stuff that you get kind of out of the box, right? Just like how we have this Copilot pane in Fabric, the actual Fabric experience. In notebooks, you have the VS Code, GitHub Copilot chat. In Notebooks, you have GitHub Copilot chat code completion, right?
Yep.
And so what we want to do, although it isn't there today, but we do kind of have a line of sight to it in the future, is we'd like to bring the Copilot and Fabric experience to VS Code as well. That is something that, we're aware of, and we have kind of, a line of sight on. I can't give any timeline on it today. But it's certainly something that we're working toward, because we want to have as much possible, in terms of parity between these experiences as we can. But certainly, as we move towards this, future where you can basically take Fabric wherever you want to go, whether it's VS Code or, the online experience, bringing as much of this goodness as we possibly can into that experience is definitely a direction that we see ourselves moving into.
Well, I mean, I think this is just fabulous. And I presume functions, like if I open up VS Code and I use those percent codes or that percent describe,
right,
that functionality is going to work inside of that native VS Code space. I don't know.
That's what we hope to, right?
Okay,
again, it's not something that works today, but that's something that we'd like to move toward. But as you saw, right, Chris, like, if you're working inside of a notebook and you're familiar with like adding those cells, and just you don't necessarily want to jump back and forth between the pane and you yourself, this emerging Pythonic expert over here, as you go through and you're like sticking in these cells, like, I want more code, I want more. Another one you can use is chat as an example, right? Like if you wanted to get like some kind of a natural language explanation for what you want to do, or you just want Copilot to give you the same kind of responses you get in the chat pane, you could also go and say percent chat and it'll output it. And I'll tell you something cool about that. Okay. If you use percent chat, you'll get that response inside of the notebook. One of the differences between using Copilot in the pane, if you want to just take, switch back to the screen real quick. One of the differences in using Copilot inside of the notebook cells and inside of the pane here is, if you wanted to get any answers and persist them inside of the notebook. Like, for example, like if you want to just ask a question like, can you tell me any kinds of machine learning models I might want to use on this data set? That's an example, right? And what it'll do here is it'll go through, based on what's actually in the context window over here, this data frame that you're using, you have the previous cells here, it's gone through, it's executed, right? It'll do some thinking, and what it'll do is it'll output actually a new cell to the notebook. Now, that's important because when you close the notebook, right, you're going to kind of lose all of that chat window, chat context and things like that. And in a way, that's kind of that's designed, right? Both from a privacy perspective, but also like, if I take this and I share this with somebody, oh, that's fascinating. It generated a bunch of code. Okay, all right, don't worry about it. Oh, no, it gave you an example code. Okay, cool. I'm sorry. That's what it did. Okay, so what it did is it provided an example snippet of code, and this is for logistic regression. Just scroll down a bit. I think I saw random forest.
Yeah.
Yep. And classification and regression. And so what it does is it goes through and it actually talks about what you could do and why. Look at that. It even talks about why. This is how you go through classification, you go through regression. It's actually tailored to that data set specifically. Like I said, 1, 2, 3 steps. You're pretty close, actually. And it'll go through and train, a random forest classification model and regression model. And you can take that code and actually you can generate that code inside of the notebook too. And let's say you don't want to do that. You can take this notebook and go share it with somebody else. And now that cell is there for them if they choose to use it.
Wow. So I could say, okay, hey, these are types of analysis we want to do on this. Hand that over to someone, please take it from here and
do what you want, right?
Yeah. It's percent code.
Yep, that's right.
Code. Create.
I think you got excited there for a second. You were like, well, I just want to do it, just go. And that's I like that. Don't lose that. We're gonna
this is come on, let's see if it works.
So this is going to work. So what you're going to be able to do now, once it runs, is you're actually going to be able to.
Oh my gosh!
This is a machine learning model. This is a random forest classification model, and you are running this on top of your Power BI data.
Holy cow! All inside like an hour. All like no. I mean, I was gonna say no magic, but clearly we're using magic all over the place now. That's fantastic.
I know we're out of time, so I'll end cap this.
Oh, yeah.
Here's the cool thing you can do now that you have this.
Yeah.
Now that you've got these notebooks, you can actually turn this into a pipeline, post the predictions back into the lake house, okay,
Right.
on top of the model, and embed those predictions inside of a report. And you can do that using all of the tools that we have just covered today.
Oh my gosh. So what you just described, not that long ago, in fact, today, in many cases at many companies, for a data science effort to make its way into a pipeline to then showcase on a report can easily take an 18 to 36 month process. And we've just outlined this, and like those next steps are like if we worked for another hour, we'd have that stuff in place. That is unfreaking believable. Oh my gosh. Well, we are over time, and Raj, I really, really appreciate you coming on to the live stream, running through this, and more importantly, I appreciate all your efforts into bringing this to life. This is just absolutely
No problem.
fantastic. So,
thank you, Chris,
for
helping us showcase this, and thank you everyone for joining us today. It was really appreciated.
Yeah. Are you on socials? Should people be connected with you? Or
absolutely. Okay. Feel free. Yeah, just
where should people reach out to you at?
Yep, LinkedIn is great.
LinkedIn. Okay. Awesome. Well, Raj, thank you for joining us. Everyone, thank you for tuning in. You guys have a great day. Peace.
Thank you.
Oh, I didn't even push my button. I'm so discombobulated here. It's awesome. It's just awesome. Baker Tilly Digital combines strategic industry insight and advanced technical expertise to uncover and solve your digital transformation challenges. If you're interested in learning more, check out our website at bakertilly.com/digital.